You are listening to Fancy Face and Friends. Hello, listeners. It is Thanksgiving week. I have a repeated guest, Aaron, here to talk about all of these cabinet possible picks from Trump's next administration.
How you doing?
It's been a minute since the election results, with Trump winning the popular vote over Vice President Kamala Harris. So let's start with that. First of all, what are your thoughts?
Let me see. I hope everybody gets exactly what they so clearly want.
What do you think that people want?
I think people want to have a recession and basically have all of their costs shoot up. And they would rather Americans as a whole would rather, what's the old saying, cut off the nose to spite the face? Basically that. I'm willing to give up, not me, Aaron, me, generic American. I'm willing to basically go touch the hot flame if that means that others won't be able to get anything.
I'm glad that you started with that because Trump is threatening to impose these tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China. On his first day in office, he would impose, according to the Associated Press, 25% tariffs on all goods imported from Mexico and Canada until those countries satisfactorily stop illegal immigration and the flow of illegal drugs such as fentanyl into the United States, and an additional 10% on China.
Right. I think people are about to get screwed, and some of them are too damn dumb to realize how and why. Um, and again, I hope they get exactly what they clearly want. So when you got people in these manufacturing jobs or these factory jobs and they start having to cut hours because of tariffs, I don't even hope, I don't want to hear you're complaining. Because when you look at the demographics, they talk about, oh, the working class voter, these voters, that voter, the one for Trump. It's like, shut up. I don't want to hear it because this is what you clearly wanted. And this isn't how should we put this? None of these things are going to be like, oh my God, I didn't know it was going to happen. Like, these are the things that he literally said he was going to do. And if you are too fucking stupid to know what a tariff is or what a tariff does, well, you're going to find out now.
He said on his social media site that thousands of people are pouring into the U.S. from Canada and Mexico because, the quote-unquote ridiculous borders we have. Even though the Associated Press says that violent crime has been down since pandemic highs.
It is.
I guess my confusion is those seem like two separate issues to me.
Because, okay, so first of all, the idea that violent crime is down. Statistically speaking, it is. Statistically speaking, current day, right now, the country is safer. The country has less violent crime than we had in the 90s. This is a statement of fact, if you by any metric. The problem is people are stupid. And because I saw a robbery yesterday in random city, USA, everybody is having robberies every day in all cities, USA. It's like, no, you saw one robbery in your lifetime last week. Oh my God, crime is terrible. No, it's not. You saw the one that your city has had in the past 7 months. Or let's say here, oh, there's the crime rate's high. It's like, okay, cool. How many people have been killed in a particular city? Let's say 50. All right. How many were killed last year? 70. The crime is going down. Like, that's not to say that those 50 deaths were, okay, that can happen. But when you have people saying things like crime is out of control, those are full-fledged emotional statements with little backing behind them. But people don't care because it's like, well, I saw crime, ergo it's out of control. And you have a lot of entities that lean into that. Police departments in particular, uh, people who make their money from police departments. It's if you let the police tell you, they'll tell you that crime is always rising, and if it went for them, it would be completely out of control all the time. because we want a higher cut of the general services budget, because we want pay raises, because we want all these things. And if you bring those stats up to them, it's, well, the only reason that happened is because you gave us all this money. It's like, causation versus correlation there, Chief.
Mm.
But again, to go back to the tariff thing and the imposing tariffs and things, it's the same thing. People have this idea that America is not a place of criminal behavior. The only reason we have criminal behavior is because of these quote unquote outside elements, the othering, if you will. And when I say Americans, they mean white America. Because,
Yeah.
if America was left to just the white people, we wouldn't have the crime if we got rid of the blacks. We wouldn't have the crime if we got rid of the brown people. We wouldn't have crime if we got rid of X, Y, and Z. Never we.
Right. He said he had several talks with China over fentanyl going through the borders to no avail.
Right. So here's the thing with that. Okay, cool. And this has always been the thing with the illicit drug trade. The illicit drug trade, yes, it's a thing. But why are they sending it here? Because the booger sugar keeps going up people's noses, Chief. Like, it ain't like they sending bricks. It ain't like they sending kilos of coke across the border and we using them to build bridges. No, they're getting sent because people are snorting it. Go to Don Jr.'s party and tell his little boys to get their nose out of the candy, and you probably wouldn't have a drug problem down there. Go over to XYZ and tell them, oh, here you go. Let's go out to rural Ohio where JD Vance likes the summer and act like he's from, and tell Meemaw and them to get off the fucking opioids, and we probably wouldn't have a fentanyl crisis. Go to your boy over at Purdue Labs and tell them to quit literally having their pharmaceutical reps figure out ways to get people addicted to the shit, and you wouldn't have that problem. But it's easier to, oh, they're sending it over versus they're sending what we've requested. Just like the Mexican president said, she's like, yes, the drug trade is very real, but you know what? These Mexican cartels and gangs keep getting caught with American-made guns. They don't make AR-15s in Mexico. You know what I mean? They don't make Uzis in Mexico. So where are they coming? Where are these weapons that are being found by these cartels in Mexico? Where are they coming from? Oh, that's right. The homeboy up here that's buying the kilo of coke is paying for him with got it. Okay, cool. So it's a two-party situation. It's not just a big bag Mexico. It's just, streaming these drugs into America's pristine backyard.
So the thing is, I think the thing that's confusing is before people voted in his last few rallies, the whole conversation surrounding his tariffs were about the goods are going to go up and things that you normally buy are going to be more expensive because of these tariffs, and like things from Amazon, as well as like agriculture and things. And that was more about what the conversation was and not really so much about drugs.
So there's two parts to this. On the front, because the whole thing, that Donald Trump's entire thing, and what people, the ones that, or let me rephrase that, the excuse that they give to why they vote for him. Oh, well, we're going to bring American jobs. We're going to have American jobs and made in America, blah, blah, blah. Cool. That is admirable. That is actually something we should be doing. But what you have to consider is the outcomes of what that's going to be. Because when you bring those jobs back over here, as you should, I fully agree you should. But what you're also going to have to remember is now you got to pay them people American wages.
Yeah.
Which means those items that you used to get for $1.25 are now going to go up. Now, the other side of this, or the other part of this equation, these same people, the Trumps, the Vances, the Republican Party, these are also the people that want to drive down minimum wage laws and get rid of them. They want things made in America, but they want them made cheaply because they just want an underclass here, i.e. a controllable one. Yeah, we want things made in America. No, we don't want you to get a living wage while you make it.
Right.
We just want you constantly busy and working. But we'd rather it be you, quote unquote, than the Chinese. Because China can eventually, at any point, be like, you know what, nah, we ain't doing that. We want to renegotiate. We want to do these things. Versus here, you can just be like, you're going to do it. But again, so many of their policy things are, they're so disjointed and they don't acknowledge the fact that these things are so interrelated. America, for example, we do not have a replacement rate birth rate, which is also why they're real big fans on no abortion.
Hmm.
Most of our replacement rate of Americans comes from immigration. So we as a country don't, what that means is native born or U.S. citizens do not produce enough children to replace those that people that die.
Okay.
Okay, so what do you do as a society? You have to have a working class. You have to have a a population of people that can work. The United States has always supplemented theirs via immigration. So even though quote unquote U.S. born people are having fewer people, the country as a whole, because the immigrants come in, maybe their kids are born here who are citizens and things of that nature, the number is able to go up. But when you cut off that immigration, is they're like, keep America Americans, cool. Where are you going to get those people? Because Americans aren't having kids for a
Right.
multitude
Right.
of reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now not only do you not have a replacement workforce, but your goods are going to go up because there's just literally not enough people to fulfill the jobs. You are not going to get some people to go to do certain jobs. Alabama had this issue a couple of years ago when they tried to act like we're cutting off the border because Americans are, the migrants are taking jobs for Americans. And then what happened? Americans did not go in them fields. Because I'm like, bitch, I ain't picking no cotton. Fuck out of here. Fuck you mean, right?
Yeah.
And if I do go, you paying me minimum wage. You paying
Right.
me more
Right.
than that. Versus Jose gonna come across this border and sling and get this cotton for you off the books, and he off the books, so you could talk to him kind of crazy for under minimum wage. So like, go ahead and put a 25% tariff on things coming from Mexico. Now, NAFTA and trade agreements and all that. Let's say those things are static. They don't have triggers and things like that, and everything stays as is, right?
Mm.
Every good that comes in from Mexico has got a 25% tariff. Cool. For your average person, who do they think it's now? Let's say the Charles Chair Company, right? You make your chairs in Mexico, good chairs, quality chairs. Everybody love them.
Mm.
You now know that to bring that chair from Durango, Mexico to San Antonio, there's an additional 25% fee. Are you, Charles, going to eat that fee?
Right. Right.
No, right? You're not going to eat that. You're going to put it onto the charge of the chair. So now, whoever's buying your chairs is now paying 25% more for your chair. So yes, the government is collecting 25% from goods coming in the country, but they're basically just collecting it from American citizens. Mexico's not paying that. The Charles Chair Company's not paying that. The people who buy the chairs from Charles are paying that. And, because it gets better, your chairs just went up 25%, right? Cool. Your competitor, who's in America, their chairs do not have the 25% tariff. But if enough of the market is now used to paying that extra 25%, do you know what they can now do? I can raise my stuff by 23%. I'm cheaper than my competitor, Charles, but I'm also now getting a 23% extra profit that I wasn't going to get before.
Yeah.
Because the market, you know what I mean? The whole market has now shifted. And let's say they don't go for the full 23%. Even if they only go up 10%, that's literally a 10% free profit that the consumers in America are going to pay because of this tariff. And that's not even taking into effect any tariffs that Mexico puts on products getting sent to them. We've gone down this road before with this idea of we're going to make tariffs to stimulate or rebring back the American economy. That's literally what we did going into the Great Depression. The Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act was literally done by Herbert Hoover to stave off the Depression. We're going to charge more for shit coming from Europe, and Europe was like, go fuck yourself. We're going to charge you more for shit coming from you. And Herbert and them like, no, you can't do that. And they're like, yeah, we can, and we just did. Oh, well, shit, that didn't work out the way we wanted it to. Think of it as, again, you are bringing your product into the country and you want to sell it for $100, okay? There's a $25 tariff on, let's say, computer chips, okay? So for every computer chip in your item, you got to pay an additional $25. Before you can even unload that product in the U.S. port, you have to pay that tariff. Now, where the tariff goes, that, filtering through a couple of different places. But before it can even come off the boat, we need our money.
Right.
But again, you as the company, like, okay, fine, here's your $25. You're not about to take a $25 cut of your product, so you're just going to increase the price of the product by $25 or, some percentage to offset it as much as possible, especially for these publicly traded companies.
So something that's been making daily news is Trump's picks for his cabinet. They've been controversial. There have been a lot of headlines. Of course, they have to be formally nominated and vetted and all that. But I wanted to just try to see what you think about some of these folks. So first is Matt Gaetz. Trump announced him as his pick.
He's dropped out at this point, I think.
Yes. In fact, he also said he wasn't going back to Congress in 2025.
Oh, did he?
Year. Yeah, yeah.
He's resigning his seat?
Yes, yes.
Oh.
So the controversy surrounding him is that the House Ethics Committee put together an investigation with him, and apparently it was going to get leaked, and somebody had testified, I believe, over the summertime that they had witnessed him having sex with an underage girl who was 17 at the time. The lawyer came out and did an interview with ABC News and just recently and corroborated both stories. So even if the ethics committee doesn't actually release what they have, the lawyer for both of those clients, the woman who witnessed it and the woman who he had sex with, had made claims and allegations against him. He's not well liked, as you know, and I guess there was some confusion as to why Trump would even nominate someone who was as radical and disliked as he is.
Because here's the thing. A friend of mine made this thing, and we were talking on Discord, and he said he was like, he looks at, and when he thinks about the Democrats and the way they've been running things the last 12 years at least, 8 years minimum. Excuse me. He's reminded. Have you seen Air Bud?
The movie about the dog?
Yeah. The dog played basketball and the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So, multiple times in the movies, there's a referee, like the dog does something, right? The dog shoots a pass or passes the ball. The other coach, ref, he can't do that. There's nothing in the rule book that says a dog can't play basketball. There's nothing in the rule book that says a dog can't dunk a ball. All these things, right, that are happening with the dog in a game. Obviously, this is a children's movie, and the idea of a dog playing, it's like, bro, dogs don't play basketball. But the analogy he was making and has held up is the Democrats and many quote-unquote Republicans, and I use the quote-unquote because let's not act like Donald Trump fell out of the sky in 2016. Like, Donald Trump came on the scene at 2016 on a platform and a stage that was set up by George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, Newt Gingrich, etc., etc., etc. Right? This is he is not a anomaly. He is the end product of the stage y'all been setting for the last 40 plus years.
Yeah.
So let's. Oh, I don't know how this happened. Yeah, you did. You created it. Don't try to run away now, Frankenstein. These people are still playing on this idea of quote unquote rules and decorum with people who do not care about them. And that's what I meant by the stage with like the George W. Bushes and things. Like the idea of a racist campaign, the idea of appealing to races didn't start with Donald Trump. Hell, Jesse Helms had a whole Hands ad in the 90s. Lee Atwater, the Southern Strategy, right? This is like, we're talking 1970s. Shit, LBJ called him out on it back in the 60s, right? So this is not new. There were just ways you went about doing it. You didn't outright call them niggers. You said the urban, we're worried about urban areas.
Yeah.
So you use the coded terms, right? Donald has taken that mask off for many things. And it also, you can see that in the way he functions. So for them, they're pissed with the Gaetzes of the world because they don't have any finesse about it. Marjorie Taylor Greene comes out talking about Jewish space lasers. That many of them think it, they just don't say it out loud. The quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, so for Donald, when he's like, well, fuck it. Y'all let me do what I want, so I'm going to keep doing what I want and put the Matt Gaetzes of the world up. But then it's like, oh my God, we can't pick him. We can't, establishment, Senate Republicans, what have you, because there's enough of them that are in states that they could lose in, 2 years or whatever the next Senate elections are. Oh, we ain't gonna vote for him. We'll vote for you because enough of our people like you, and you, Donald, get enough attention and traction. We can get behind that, but not for Matt Gaetz. So that's what happened with that. And plus, people also don't like him in general. That's why when you said about him not going back to Congress, which I didn't know, but I'm not shocked by, because he's not liked, one, and because he's in Florida, if he does step down, DeSantis gets to name his replacement. So for the Republican Party, we don't really need you.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and the other thing is, with Trump being back in the White House, they don't even need him to be, to run interference in terms of, please go tell Donnie what we like and love about him. It's like, bro, we'll just go talk to him ourselves. Like, you are no longer a factor from a political standpoint. He's just gonna, but I mean, Matt Gaetz is now just gonna go on the TV circuit, the donor fundraising circuit, and he's about to be all kinds of unhinged because now he doesn't even have the potential of, ethics committees looking after him.
I read an article actually recently that said he was maybe teeing up to be the next Florida governor.
There's no way.
Right.
There's no way, because there's enough other people in Florida who are just as qualified who would have no problem airing his dirty laundry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I think DeSantis is term limited, so he can't run again. So Florida's governor's office is an open seat. You know what I mean? And yes, they're going to be looking to get the Donald approval, but also, as we all know, Donald's an idiot. If you flatter him enough, he'll go along with you. So, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's no real benefit. There's no real benefit there.
Speaking of Florida, Trump's proposed pick for Secretary of State is Marco Rubio, excuse me. He served as the vice chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee. He's a vocal supporter of Israel. He supported aiding Ukraine. He served in the Senate for more than a decade. What are your thoughts about that and him?
So Marco is another example of Marco. I don't think has actual principles. I think Marco is literally just there for power.
Okay.
Whatever he can get, wherever he can get it. Is he as bad as Ted Cruz? No, but they're definitely in the same ballpark. Like, if Donald came out tomorrow and said, Marco, I will make you Secretary of State if you, I don't know, shit, suck Bill Barr's toes. Marco will do it. Marco will do it. Well, I don't know that that's really required to, okay, fine, give me the pinky toe. Marco will do it. But what I will say is Marco Rubio getting picked is hilarious to me because, like you said, is a friend of Israel. And when I say, and I'm not to say that this is like, oh, nobody should be a friend of Israel, but Marco is not a fan of a ceasefire with Israel, Lebanon / Gaza. So, again, you have a soon-to-be president who is literally picking people who is going to do exactly what he said he was going to do, and now you have communities over here like, oh my God, I can't believe it, like in Dearborn, Michigan. Well, we're very disappointed in the president, in President Trump for what? Doing what he told you exactly he was going to do? I hope you're fucking happy. Because remember, y'all didn't want Kamala because she's not going to do anything for Gaza. So you picked him, who literally just picked a guy who has told you he don't want a ceasefire. I hope you get exactly what you so clearly desire.
Next, we have Tulsi Gabbard, who's his pick for Director of National Intelligence.
Which you might as well just set up the CIA office, and you might as well just give Vladimir a key to the damn office.
Well, for people who don't know, the top intelligence advisor oversees all 18 of the nation's intelligence agencies.
Correct. Like I said, you might as well just give Vladimir, you might as well just give him a fast pass. Because Tulsi has been compromised. Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. Tulsi, yes, was a Democrat. He used to be a Democrat for a very long time. That does not mean that she, quote unquote, has, for lack of a better term, Democratic ideals. And there could be things to be said that, yeah, maybe that the Democrat Party has quote unquote gone too far left for many people. But they also have been terrible about getting in front of messaging and have been spent the last 35 years being reactive instead of proactive. Um, Tulsi, however, Tulsi trying to get paid, and I don't think she really cares where the money comes from.
Like even foreign entities.
As long as it ends up in her checking account, I don't think she cares.
Well, she's been a critical supporter of the U.S. over the U.S.'s support of Ukraine. For Ukraine. She's actually expressed pro-Russian conspiracy theories that align with the Kremlin's own talking points, voiced support for the brutal regime of Syrian President Bashar Assad, and regularly criticized U.S. military interventions overseas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next, Pet Hegseth, the defense secretary. He's a Fox News personality. He was a major in the Army National Guard and served in Iraq and Afghanistan, earning 2 Bronze Stars. Disapproves of women serving in combat. According to a 2023 Defense Department report, women make up 17.5% of the active duty force.
The argument is that if you are in the field, in black ops areas, and all these things, having women and the idea of soldiers having to worry about the woman next to them, they're going to be they'll be compromised and less likely to be a lethal fighting force. Which, the truth of it is, there's a lot of people that feel that way. He ain't the only one, and that's a conversation that people don't want to actually have. I think that the conversation is largely bullshit, because other than your potential concern for menstruation issues, this is not a factor. Yeah, or the idea that, oh, they have to be able to lift somebody out of a firefight or lift a fellow soldier. Cool. You can't tell me that every single guy can do it.
Right.
Now, if you want to have a conversation about, hey, because I know one of the things that people had before was the military has, for like some of the strength tests, they have adjusted numbers for male and female. And you can make the argument, okay, cool. If you are a female soldier, do you carry a lighter pack? No. So then theoretically, yes, we should not be making a lower weight for you because you are not going to be seeing a lower weight. But at the same time, not every guy is meeting the rate for the guys either. If you just make the number, and whoever makes it, then you should have no issue. But you don't want to do that. They just want to say, no, we don't want to have women at all. Then just say that. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. If your issue is you don't want to have favoritism, or you don't want to, quote unquote, alter the military to accommodate the women, cool, then don't. But for every woman that meets the muster, she gets to go in just like everybody else.
Okay, now what do you think about his education secretary, Linda McMahon? She was affiliated with the WWE. She was the former WWE chief executive. She served a year on Connecticut's Board of Education in 2009. She's previously supported school choice. And this was her second time in the Trump administration because she led the Small Business Administration from 2017 to 2019.
Do you remember Donald Trump being on WWE for a while? Donald and Vince go back. They have a relationship. Donald has been involved in WWE stuff for years. Because he has a craving for attention.
Yeah.
So let's take a step back and recall what is required for you to be a cabinet member.
That's really what I want to know.
Nothing. Appointment and approval. That's it.
Like you really can have zero experience of something that you're of a department that you're going to.
No, not zero experience. Let me put it this way. If Donald Trump came out tomorrow and said, I want to nominate this 6-month-old infant to be the Secretary of the Treasury, as long as 51 senators say, okay, that's your new Secretary of the Treasury. Appoint and approve. That is the only requirement. If Donald said, I want to nominate this random 17-year-old boy in Bulgaria, who currently lives in Bulgaria, I want them to be the director of the Department of Defense, the director of the FBI. If the Senate's like, you know what? Okay, Donald, and they approved it, that 17-year-old is now the director of the FBI. Is he a U.S. citizen? No. Do you have to be a U.S. citizen? No. Do you have an age requirement? No. Is there any educational requirements? No. The only requirements to be in any of these cabinet level positions is if the president wants you and 51 comma or a majority of the senators go along with it. Now coming in, the Republican Party will have 53 senators. So as long as only 2 of them defect, it doesn't matter who he picks. They will get approved.
So this goes back to Airbud. Like no rules. It's not in the rule book.
We've had a history of, picking people who might have a background. You may not agree with them philosophically. You may not agree with what they're going with it, but they at least have some kind of background in this area, other than just oh, my passion is the kids. No, okay, get the fuck out of here. There's no requirement for that. Look at his last one, Betsy DeVos. Betsy had no educational background. Her educational background is me and my husband have given Donald a ton of money, and I like school choice because I want ways to funnel public money into private hands. The real Republican vision. That's it. But again, there's no educational background there.
There's no vested interest.
There's no vested interest. But that's the case for all. And you know what though? That's the case for all political appointments. Even if you look at a lot of Democrat ones, it's like, okay, why did X get put in charge of Y? Because political appointments for cabinet are, in many cases, rewards, or they're like people who you think could do it, or people that are looking, maybe they're termed out from somewhere, and still trying to keep something going, maybe set them up for future office.
They're usually it seems like they're usually surrogates, right?
That's why a lot of them do it, because they're hoping that if the person wins, that they're going to get one of those cush jobs. I'm going to get to be the ambassador to some tropical country, high, low stakes, high party area, or I'm going to get to be in charge of this department over here, or something else of that nature. A vast majority of them are doing that. And with Donald Trump in particular, he's shown himself multiple times to, again, as long as you flatter him, it will pay off for you. Oh, do you want to be the Secretary of Labor? Yeah. Do you have any idea what the Secretary of Labor does? None whatsoever. But I tell Donald all the time that he's a pretty guy.
I'm not going to lie, though. I would love an ambassadorship to a foreign country. I mean, one that's not having problems like wars and stuff.
The last ambassador, Donald Trump's ambassador to the United Kingdom, was Woody Johnson. Woody Johnson is one of the owners of the New York Jets, and he's heir to the Johnson & Johnson company.
Oh.
He was the ambassador to the United Kingdom.
Okay.
That's one of those jobs where you don't have to do a lot, because that's a country that we can stand so close with.
Yeah.
That you don't worry about, you're not really having to do a lot, because if anything pops off, they have a direct contact, to the president.
So I could do that. And I got my master's degree there.
And it don't even matter if you have a degree or not, versus you get a place give me a tropical country.
How about Turks and Caicos? Or, how about the Maldives, actually?
Now, some of these smaller countries may not have one just because they may have one for the area. Oh, here we go. Sri Lanka and the Maldives. So your current one is Julie Chung, who's been in since 2022. Let's see who are there. Sri Lanka. Excuse me. Oh, that actually is one that people have not had one go to. They've been foreign service officers.
Okay.
Too low profile. So good. That's good. That's a good thing. Let's see. What's another country that you might want? That's a good.
How about Dominican Republic?
All right. So your last ambassadors to the Dominican Republic, you have. They are. We don't technically have one right now.
Okay. Okay. So that's open. That's open.
Donald Trump, the last one was on there was Donald Trump, and we just had acting ones because the Senate refuses to confirm them. So she started off as a Democrat until 1986 when she became a Republican. This is Robin Bernstein, who is the last actual ambassador to the Dominican Republic. She was a founding member of Trump's Mar-a-Lago Club and has been his insurance agent for many years.
Okay.
So he made his insurance agent the ambassador to the Dominican Republic.
So like his State Farm
Mm-hmm.
person. Okay. So, okay, what do you think of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as the Health and Human Services Secretary? That job is to promote public health and prevent disease. It oversees drug, vaccine, and food safety at the FDA, as well as medical research at the National Institutes of Health and healthcare programs through the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. He's a promoter of vaccine misinformation. He's also questioned the need for fluoride in public water systems, even though fluoride at a safe level helps reduce overall tooth decay. What are your thoughts about RFK Jr.?
This is what happens when you put people in charge who don't have any backing, or not backing, but any professional knowledge in that area. Like RFK is not a doctor. RFK ain't got no damn backing in this shit. He's just a rich guy who's read some shit somewhere. That's all this is. It's like if, I'll put it this way. If Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was not RFK and saying the same exact shit that he says, we would all look at him like, you are somebody's fucking weird uncle, get the hell away from me.
Yeah, yeah.
Like nobody would listen to him. He's not like saying any kind of like profound shit. It just happens to be that his daddy got murked.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's it. If your last name wasn't Kennedy, if he was just Robert Frank, they'd be like, who the fuck is this guy? But because, like I said, because his daddy got killed and his uncle was president, et cetera, oh, Robert Kennedy, well, Robert Kennedy said that fluoride shouldn't be in board. What the fuck you reading? I read it on the internet somewhere. But again, on one hand, you have people like him in charge, and we used to be able to take solace in the fact that government bureaucracy means that, just because Johnny Schmo at the top wants something done doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight, because it's got to go through all these other people who like, bitch, I ain't losing my damn good job over your dumb ass who's going to be gone in 4 years. Fuck that. I'm going to lose that email. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We are not doing that. But when you take the other parts of what they're doing, like the Project 25, so where they're trying to change a lot of these jobs to be political appointments, now you have the issue of you're going to do what Robert and his brainworm wants because you want to keep your job. And the potential implications of that for the country are going to be felt for years.
I forgot about the brainworm.
And that's not just in Health and Human Services. That's in all of these agencies.
Yeah.
When you have, people that are under the Department of Agriculture, when the whoever's in charge or whatever lobbyist of the day gets in that person's ear and says, hey, we really should boost the payments here and cut off this program, or yeah, we really should shut off the food stamp program, or not food stamp, but the free and reduced lunch program, because we're tired of those brown kids getting free food off of us. All right, cool. Go ahead and do that. Mm-hmm. What you also gonna do is you're gonna fuck off your little friend who has his farm, because a lot of his money that he's making is selling food to these programs that you just ended. Which is another thing, which is why some of this will get tempered, because I actually don't want it to be honest. A lot of you hear these Republicans talking about, we're going to cut government spending, we're cutting government waste and all that. No, they're not, because they're the welfare queens. Mm. The red states are the welfare queens.
Yeah.
That's why they hate them so, the call is coming from inside the house.
Okay, so last one, I promise. How about his EPA pick, the Environmental Protection Agency Administrator, Lee Zeldin? He leads the U.S. effort. He would lead the U.S. efforts on the environment, including enforcing laws and overseeing regulations, including on how the country addresses climate change. The agency operates on a $10 billion budget and includes more than 17,000 full-time employees. He's a former congressman. He's an ally of Trump, obviously, and he's criticized the Biden administration for choosing to cancel the Keystone XL pipeline. He's also opposed to rejoining the Paris Climate Agreement without holding bad actors like China accountable, which, I mean, China should be accountable as well, for sure. He has called climate change a hoax and argued that addressing it hurts business.
Because it does. Certain businesses. If your business is literally spewing shit into the environment, yeah, addressing climate change is going to hurt you. As it should. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like saying, we're going to make laws to stop burglary. That's going to hurt my business because you're a thief. Like, okay.
What do you think about China also being held responsible for climate change?
But also, yeah, and I'm 100% agree with that. But it's one of those things. It's like, y'all ain't about to hold them accountable because that's gonna fuck with your stock price.
Right.
You know, and that also comes back to that idea of the idea that you can't do one thing while you're working on another, right? Is this idea? Well, we're not going to do it if they're not. It's like, you know, we can do ours and then work on them to do theirs also, right? No, we're not going to do that. Okay, so you know that they're not going to do it, so you're able to use that as basically your cover for why you're going to continue to be a bad actor.
Yeah.
Basically. But yeah, the EPA one's going to be interesting not because of Lee Zeldin, who, again, kissed the ring, you know what I mean? Like, that's really what this comes down to. How much ring kissing are you going to do? But the bigger issue I think people should be concerned about with ones like that is when it comes back to the fact that the Republican Party basically has all three branches, and I don't mean the two branches of the House. I mean the judicial. The Supreme Court basically has given Donald Trump carte blanche to do what he wants now. You know what I mean? Oh, if the president, they took the Nixon, if the president does it, it's not illegal, and they basically codified that. So if Donald Trump on January 21st says, I'm sending troops into New York City to basically I'm sending troops into New York to take the New York governor hostage or to remove her from office because I don't like the shoes she wore, the Supreme Court just basically said, yeah, if he's the president, he can do it.
Yikes.
Now, will he do it? Probably not, because doing something that blatant will cause potentially civil war. And, you know, Republicans love nothing more than to be faux outraged. But they've basically given him that. They have shown that they don't care about precedent when it fits them. So to go back to the EPA thing, you have a place like California who has, like many states, our own EPA regulations, our own things like this. What's going to happen, what I fear happening, and really this will just come down to how badly in history does John Roberts want to be remembered, because that's his ego, that's what he does, to see how much he'll allow things to happen. But also, you're getting to the point where he's not going to be able to control them because of how many Republican justices there are. So California has their own EPA regulations. The California EPA, basically. Many other states adopt our standards as theirs. And so you have companies that are claiming that it's unconstitutional. And they're like, okay, based on what? Well, California can't impose their restrictions on other states. We're not. We're saying that if you want to sell things in California, this is what you have to do, which, because of federalism, we can do. Well, other states are adopting that. I didn't tell them they had to adopt it. They chose to adopt mine. Well, they can't do that. Why not? Oh, because you don't want them to. Because basically, think of it this way. Charles, I write a paper, right? You like my paper. Let's say we're in a class that does not have any restrictions on plagiarism, for sake of argument. You take that same paper and you make that the standard for your paper. You can do that, right? Where'd you get those standards from? I got them from Aaron. Well, why didn't you put your name? I just used Aaron's framework because it's the same framework I want to use. Okay, I guess that's fine. What is there any different between you doing that and then you taking those same frameworks and it's saying calling them the Ferguson framework, you put, the Harris framework, but it's literally the exact same thing. Is there really any difference?
No.
So that's what many states have done, and they're claiming that's unconstitutional.
The Supreme Court is claiming that?
No, these people that are challenging it because, like I said, California. So, okay, like if you buy a car, like a car that's bought in California has to meet the CARB standard, California Air Resource Board standard. Like 13 other states have adopted CARB, which is what that is, as their standard. So if your car can be sold in California, meeting CARB, it can be sold in California, Illinois, New York, Massachusetts, a couple other states, and vice versa. If your car does not meet CARB, it cannot be sold in Illinois, Massachusetts, New York, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? So for a car manufacturer, they make cars that meet CARB. Not all of them do. So if you ever see like trucks, for example, like the Dodge Lone Star Edition, Dodge Ram the Lone Star Edition, that's the one they sell in Texas. You cannot buy the Lone Star Edition in California because the Lone Star does not meet California EPA standards.
Got it.
There's a couple of other trim levels in cars and shit and trucks like that and elsewhere, right? So for Dodge would love to have CARB gone because then they can only have to make one car and can sell it everywhere. And not only can you not sell it in California, but you cannot register it in California because it will not meet the fuel emissions.
I was just going to ask that.
Okay, so that's part of the issue. And what we know is probably going to happen is you're going to get somebody who's going to sue. It's going to go through the Court of Appeals, blah, 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 blah. If the Supreme Court doesn't come in and say, oh, we'll take that case before it goes through the normal process so that we can rule and basically rule against California. And remember, once the Supreme Court rules on it, that's it.
Yeah, it's the law of the land. So we'll just have to wait and see if these nominations go through, if there are other picks. And also, what events happen while that administration is in charge and the things that pop up. I mean, look what happened last time they were in charge. COVID happened. So we just have to kind of wait and see who's going to be in charge of what and what happens during their tenure.
Yeah, there's a couple of them. Lack of background checks that they're trying to talk about doing will be a big one for the people getting nominated. So normally they vet them, they do your background, make sure like, hey, Tulsi, what's this $50,000 payment you got from the Turkish embassy last month? Right. That kind of shit. Right. They are trying to waive background for a lot of people because, quote, the process is too biased and they'll never get cleared. What it more likely is going to be is your boy who's been getting money from, that Russian money ain't going to have to disclose that now.
That's ridiculous.
Oh, it's beyond ridiculous. But, I hope America gets exactly what they so clearly want.
Well, thanks again, Aaron, for joining me. And thank you again, listeners, for tuning in.